Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we talk about the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Today is going to be sort of a continuation of last week's episode where we talk about the meta and after post-retirement and some things that we, really want to start looking at. And I mainly focused on support powers last week and the impact of those powers and how much more we're paying for those powers. This week we're going to be looking more at stats and the implication of stats. Also, I know I really need to cover TMNT and Captain America Civil War. So that's coming, it's just not immediate. In all honesty, it most likely will be next week. The week after that, I'm going to be in Huntsville, Alabama at the end of the month. So that week, there might not be an episode, may or may not. It all depends. So just giving you all a fair warning right now. So let's just sort of go ahead and get into it. Open up your heroclix browser of choice, and what we're going to look at is stats and why the stats are important. And I know, I'm just jumping straight in today, no chaser, mainly because there's a lot to cover, so just trying to maximize time here, and it's a little late here in Kansas City. Had an FU today, so yeah, it's a big thing. So what we're going to start off with is attack. And the main thing is I'm going to have us look at, characters under 300 points, modern age, with 11 attack or greater on first click. Now, what we're going to see is Ninja Turtles. Woohoo, lots of Ninja Turtles, which is huge. One of the biggest ones being Krang, and the other Michelangelo, and then a close follow-up, Raphael. Those cats are really, really strong. Those figures are really strong. So there is that. Also, you're getting some cheap guys in Turtles for that 11 attack up front. Even Shredder's 80 points with 11 attack up front, 6 clicks deep. That's pretty good. Then you sort of scroll down and you start to notice, you have your Shumagorath. And he's going to be around for a little bit. I think some folks forgot about him. But I think also, with characters like Krang, it's I come up there with Justin Zephyr, and then, I running shot Pulse Wave for 5, on Shumagorath, and, he's on regen, and he's not much of a threat, so... There's that as well. So Shuma, I don't think he's going to come back up in the meta, but he is there for anyone who figures out how to use him to use him. So take that as you wish. All right. You also still have that cool Captain America Sentinel on his rookie dial with an 11 attack up front. And I think there's still a lot of power there. I just think a lot of people are going to overlook that Captain America Sentinel. And, in all honesty, he's fun goodness. The defense values have something to be desired. There's a lot to be desired there. Supreme Intelligence. Dormammu, I really believe we can't sleep on Dormammu because he just proves over and over again that he's worth it. At 250 and at 300. I just don't think most people have the courage to play Dormammu. And that's just honest truth. But that's just my opinion. If we keep going down, I know we have some Uncanny X-Men previews, but we're really not going to focus on those. When we start looking at Captain America Civil War, that common Captain America, you're paying $125. And this is really where I want to start us off in our thinking. For our higher attacks with decent range, we're probably going to be paying around 100 points. Like even War Machines, 7 range, 105. You can make them 110 with the Iron Man is right trait, and that's big. You know, you do have that Black Panther from the Target exclusive. He's 11 attack, but he has a very, very short range. Okay, Hawkeye comes in at 85 points. He has an 8 range, but he doesn't have any upfront movement attack. But he has range combat expert and energy explosion. So we're seeing like little nuanced things like that we need to be mindful of. And then when you go into the starter, there's Winter Soldier there with the 8 range, sidestep. So he doesn't have a lot of movement attack with running shot. So what we're looking at, in all honesty, is just a lot of 11s. There are a lot of 11s that we can access, but there's not a lot of 11s with a high range, which we're going to get to here shortly with the range issue. Even so much so, like we can look at some of our fan favorites: Iron Man, female Thor, Nick Fury. Scroll down a little bit more, we see some of the Ultrons start off with 11 attack or higher. We're not speaking his name. We have some Thors. We have some 3D Man, Trick Shot. Trick Shot is also one figure to definitely sort of keep your eye out, because he gives us a natural 12 at 104 with 8 range and Masters of Evil ATA, shape change and stealth with that special power and energy explosion and sharpshooter. That is a lot of goodness for us to keep in mind. Just a lot. And so I really think that if you're not reassessing what's good after retirement, and looking at some older figures that weren't that great before, they are great now, and I think Trick Shot is the epitome of that. Just sort of proving that I'm not just Marvel biased. Sort of jumping down into DC, we can automatically see like some key figures that are still going to be really viable, like World's Finest, the female World's Finest, getting access to that World's Finest Power Girl dial, giving you 11 attack up front, and then just paying the full points for 200, and then getting a really, really, really deep dial, 11 clicks deep. You really don't get that too often. That 11 click dial. And not only that, you're getting it for 200 points, so you can get more in there. Now, we'll see why this 11 is more of a big deal here in a couple of moments. But let's see, the Sarah Rainmaker, she's going to come back in flavor. Like 11 attack, 3 damage with perplex, energy explosion, 3 targets. Like she's going to come back. That probably supports Sarah Rainmaker. Coriander, of course, like she's always going to be good. Unfortunately, Composite Superman falls off really sadly. Also, another note: Martian Manhunter at 165, and then also Martian Manhunter at 100 points. Probably some of the most solid stats that you're just going to get, period. Just overall, definitely Martian Manhunter at 165. He's across the chart, either at the top end of average or above average. Definitely when we're looking at his attack. Now, does he not have super strength? Yes, that is a disadvantage. Does he not have like some form of getting hypersonic speed? Yes, that is a disadvantage. But he has a high attack, and we'll focus on that right now, with Quake. And so he has some flexibility there. That new prize support, Green Arrow, 12 attack, 3 damage, 85 points, trick arrows, all that good jazz, decent range. We see that character, pop up as a really viable character that's probably going to come in and dominate the meta here in a couple of months. We also have one of the biggest characters that I'm starting to become more and more concerned about is the Target exclusive Superman. And coming in with hypersonic speed, above average movement, Batman TA, Superman TA, super strength, very good defense, above average damage, above average range. His first clicks are literally godly for the new meta. There's very few things that I see that's able to compete with this click. Like this hero click as it stands right now is probably one of the most powerful hero clicks in the game after retirement, which means that you're going to see him a lot. Now, there is a caveat to that. And the caveat to that is there are other characters that can do better than him, but there are negatives that are associated with those characters. But raw, pound for pound, this is the best, one of the best characters in the game after retirement, period. Now, I know some of you might say, well, what about Trinity War Superman? Trinity War Superman has really, really good stats too and can buff himself and all this other stuff too. And I agree. Trinity War Superman can do a lot of great stuff. But Trinity War Superman doesn't have the ability to bust through walls just by moving. Trinity War Superman doesn't have inherently anything in his kit that allows him to heal himself at all. And then also Trinity War Superman does not have access to a Batman TA if there's not a Batman on the field. So you start to see that Trinity War Superman has a lot of problems. And you might say, but Nick Fury can do blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Nick Fury can, and anybody with improved targeting can see Batman. But there are tons of figures with range that do not have improved targeting, ignores hindering, and that's where it comes in. Also, he can just Kool-Aid Man all over the place, and that is a huge issue. Definitely when we start seeing ranks being retired, we do have a couple of maps that are dependent on walls, and you can look at your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle maps, and they are very blocking terrain, close combat centric. And then you're going to incorporate a Superman that can just be like 80s Kool-Aid Man, running all over the place doing massive property damage and not caring, and then dip behind a wall. Yeah. So like this figure, I'm not trying to hype anything on eBay. I'm not selling any, Target exclusives, but I do think that this figure is going to be one of the main concerns that's going to come down the line. Not watch list level, but there are going to be concerns. He does have weaknesses. Clicks 3 and click 6. You'd be surprised. You'll land on those way more than you think you would. Trust me. Like, I've played him. I've played him and was considering him for several different things. And it didn't work out. But after, it works sort of now, pre-retirement with Parallax, and you have to run Parallax. But when you're running Parallax, you also understand that you're getting a different disadvantage, and that disadvantage is that you have no way of dealing with evasion at all. Like, period. But Parallax gets Pulse Wave, which you can't combine with any sort of running shot because you have hypersonic speed. So there's a lot of placement and them not moving and you hoping you can get stuff off. That's ridiculous. Alright, let's keep rolling. Some other characters that we're going to be noticing is that World's Finest Superman, number 2, the one that's the hypersonic speed. And I think there's also the one that's the charge, I destroy walls and crap. He's another one. I think that has a high attack. I think it's like 17A. He has an 11 attack with super strength, and he can, I think, up his attack potentially or something. Or is that the chase? I mean, not chase, the prime. Using my strength for making an attack, increase Superman's damage dealt by +1. Give him free act. Okay, yeah, it's, I guess that's the prime. Anyway, so you're seeing that. You also have some other characters of note that do show up, and unfortunately, it just seems to be the Superman Hour, which is the 200-point Superman from World's Finest, which full dial move and attack, full dial some sort of attack power, and good damage reduction in entire dial for 200 points. He is a very strong Superman, but again, compare him to the Target exclusive Superman. the Target exclusive Superman has one more on defense, has the Batman TA, one more on damage. Same movement. Also, but this character can't have his powers and abilities can't be countered, so that's nice. But he can be seen easily, whereas the other Superman can protect himself from having his powers countered by just being stealth. One's more limiting and the other's not, but you also are looking at improved targeting on the improved movement on the Target exclusive Superman. We also are looking at the Kingdom Come figures, and of course we can't say anything without looking at Kingdom Come Superman. That seems to be a trend. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about real briefly before the Kingdom Come figures, Supergirl from the World's Finest set, because at 200 points, you're getting a okay figure. Is it the best of the best? No, but I do believe that you have options that you can start playing around with. Definitely start looking at, okay, I have Superman enemy TA, and then also I think Apocalypse could be useful keyword, and so can Amazon too. And Kryptonian also to bump your attacks for that ATA. So, but going in, the KC Batman, while useful, I don't think we're going to be seeing him as much as I was hoping once batteries rotate, because his range is 6. But he comes back and he presents us a quandary, because Batman has the average range. The average range now is 6. Above average is 7 and 8. Okay. And you're talking about slightly above average. Exceptional is 9 and 10. Or really 9 and higher. So Batman has average range. He's not bad. It's just the fact that there are figures with above average range that have exceptional targeting, and that his defensive power isn't enough. His stealth isn't enough to assist and help him. Okay, but at a 13 attack, if you find a way of making him Sinister Syndicate or Batman enemy, slapping those TAs on him, which would be sort of ironic. Sharing that 13 with another more comparable figure would be really, really, really powerful. Then you have Wonder Woman, and I know some people say Wonder Woman sucks. She's not that great. Again, this 13 attack, very low range, I understand that. But it really does come down to deployment, and if you can figure out a way of getting a nice deployment off, she will be really, really strong and have a really great impact on your Metascape. Alright, if we move on to Green Lantern, again, 12 attack, above average range. You just can't see through stealth, which is going to hurt him later on. Above average, actually at the higher end of damage output, which he can get his attack and his damage into that above average range with Range Combat Expert. So there's something to see there. Shazam, we're not really going to see him that much in Modern, and you're going to say, but he has an 11 attack, Dark Logos, and it's yeah, he has an 11 attack that can't be modified. And so you're spending all of your energy lowering your opponent's stats so that he can hit, and that's more effort to lower your opponent's stats than it is to buff your own stats. And then lastly, there's Spectre, and Spectre is solid. He's solid. The 12 range is great. The problem comes in is without any movement attack that's accessible. Currently, as it stands, he's going to be on the sideline, and you're going to spend 2 actions, one for TK and the other is for him to shoot, for him to actually be worth his points. And that's a high action, consumption. It's a really high action consumption. And then also we're seeing a, emergence of poison still in the meta. And, with no damage reduction, that makes him very soft. very, very soft. So, really, when all's said and done, yeah, you're going to see Green Lantern. Yeah, you're going to see Superman. Batman's questionable. Wonder Woman actually is pretty viable. I just think, you can't sleep on any of these, really. And just being able to summon in Wonder Woman from an ID card, I mean, yeah, that's great for 140 points. That's really, really good. Same thing with Batman. For 140 points, just being able to summon those characters in and they just like go to town on somebody, So, anyway, keep going through. Of course, it's more Supermans that have these above 11 attack or higher, or Superman-like characters. Some other characters to just be aware of from the Superman Wonder Woman set: Apollo. And you want to tag Apollo because, again, remember we talked about that pulse wave. Not that many characters have pulse wave on the first click, and then Apollo on click 2 goes up to a 12 attack 4 damage pulse wave. That's really great. And he has improved targeting, ignores hindering, very above average range. On the higher end of above, at an 8 range. 200 points. And pretty much has the ability to do really, really, really solid work the entire time you play him. And he's definitely not a character to be underestimated. And I think that, a lot of people say, well, he's overcosted. There's a lot better characters, when you put entities on him and blah, 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 this, that, and the other. But when we start looking at post-retirement, definitely in those early months, Apollo comes back. He can be a very, very serious threat early on to a lot of teams. Even if you said, like, okay, well, what if I add Eclipso or Brainiac on him? Like, Brainiac on him in particular, I know Brainiac's dial won't cover the entirety of Apollo's dial. But if you're mindful and careful, just being able to say, like, all right, I have sidestep and then I have a running shot movement of 12. And so, okay, I have sidestep. That sidestep alone just allows you to come up and do, just dumb stuff from jump. I don't need sidestep. I have outwit. Oh, okay, I outwit this on you and I pulse wave this other person. Oh, I pulse wave you, now I outwit this. So there's a lot there. Another character that has a lot of flexibility to build around: Sister Superior, 11 attack, 6 range, stealth, TK, leadership. Like a lot of utility, a lot of good solidness that you can build around. I'm not saying that her and Justin Zephyr are BFFs, but I do think it's something really nice to look at. Also, Green Lantern at 180, and I know some people might hate him because he doesn't deliver as much as some other figures can, but I still think that he has the survivability to come back, be great, be a great figure, and then cause your opponent a lot of trouble. And when we also start looking at no more zombies in the meta, he can come back in peace, which means that he has an ability that's really better than a stop click, and he can really be forceful in the meta. But I think that it requires people, again, to be creative in how they play with him, and because I know a lot of people would definitely just sleep on his capabilities. Just wrapping some things up, I know that we're going to see Red Sun Superman on full points come back into the meta just because he is that scary, but I again don't believe that the Red Sun Superman is as good as that Target exclusive Superman. You're getting a lot, but you're also paying for some things that I really feel that aren't always that useful. Definitely exiled to a farming collective, and criminals become Superman robots. And you're not going to use, hey, wait, that's not Superman. But you're paying for it. So if you were able to like do optional traits and turn, wait, that's not Superman off, and turn, criminals become Superman robots off, then you're looking at a figure that is superior at 250. Well, maybe not 250, 270, maybe even 260, which makes him a way better figure, way more efficient. But, that's how it goes. Also, I think this is interesting as well. You can give a second look at a very underestimated figure, and a figure that a lot of newer players may have played, and then once they got more stuff put away, and that's Ultraman from the Crime Syndicate Fast Forces. Hypersonic speed, 7 range, 12 attack, 18 defense, 5 damage. He has improved targeting, ignores hindering. He has CSA team ability. He has Syndicate rules, TA. Not TA, trait. When Ultraman is part of a Crime Syndicate theme team, you may add 1 use of theme probability control to your pool each time an opposing character uses theme team probability control. Okay? And then you have Ruler of His Earth. Ultraman can use Impervious, okay, and Mastermind. When the result Impervious is 4, reduce damage by 3 instead of 2. So, yeah, that's really good. I mean, really, really good. So, like, you look at this and you're like, but Dark Logos, I just pulse wave him. And it's like, well, that's fine. But really, like, overall, it's just stats. It's really nice stats. Even the Superwoman from that set at 150, really nice stats. Really a good very deep clicks of dial. Sorry, very deep dial. And I think that's important too, because when we start getting to damage output, that's going to be a big issue. All right, so we keep progressing through DC. We're also going to keep looking at some more standouts. Freddie Freeman, the Prime, Hawkman, definitely Hawkman. The Sinestro actually becomes viable again at 200 points. And again, I know some people will say, but Dark Logos, he's not that good. You don't have a Yellow Lantern power battery anymore. Okay? So now, his little Perplex is a little bit better. And you have a little bit of control. So there's stuff there that's like, oh wow, I didn't think about that. And you start combining different effects, and we're like, oh wow, this actually might have been better than I thought. Let's keep going. There's Zatanna, but most people aren't going to play Zatanna. I like Mahazis. He's still going to be around. Despero, like, I think that this is one character that has been fully underestimated in the meta, just period. Good movement, great attack value at a 12. Very good damage output. Like, he's a very solid piece. Mahazis is just too much. He has too much utility for anyone to sleep on Mahazis. I know people will say, but Dark Logos, Krang. Krang's going to rule everything. Krang's going to be the new Super Skrull. Krang's going to rule the throne. Krang will kill Super Skrull because all he needs is Justin Zephyr. Cool, I understand that. But when we start looking a little beyond just Krang, Krang is the new hotness. Krang is the best. Krang is the overlord. We can start looking at, all right, I got 11 attack, 5 damage. Just straight up, I have 11 attack, 5 damage. I have the ability to steal powers and add them to my list of powers. I still have access to entities. Even though it is Eclipso and Brainiac. And Eclipso does a lot for Mahazes. Or Mazaz. Sorry, I keep saying Mahazes. Anyway, so I like that. And just sort of wrapping up, with the Flash set, there is Apollo, the member of the of Stormwatch and Authority. And I know some people will say, but that guy is 200 points and he sucks and he has 11 attack. But he has 11 attack and a 19D. And again, we're going to get into defense here in a little later. Good damage output. Okay. He also has the damage power. A god on a far pedestal. Apollo's other powers can't be countered. If no opposing characters are adjacent to him, he can use super senses. So he has invincible in super senses, or impervious in super senses. Okay, so that's really good. He also has the option of using a regen as a free action if he's in outdoor terrain, or the highest elevation of outdoor terrain. So there's some cool stuff to build around, and of course we can't forget like full point engineer Jenny Sparks, or Professor Zoom. So you're saying to yourself, hey, Dark Logos, you spent a ton of time talking about attack. Why did you start off with attack? Because a lot of the other stats, there's not that many contenders. Okay? And that's really the problem. We had this luxury for a while in which we could hit that 23 stat wall. Like, no problem. 23, bam. And I think game design said, oh, crap. We never really wanted that wall to be a constant. We wanted that wall to be like the stars aligned and magic happened. Or, only a handful of figures can get that way. That's one of the reasons why Despotellis couldn't have his stats modified. Because with its poison ability, if you could modify his defense, it would be impossible. He could have his stats modified, he just couldn't have his stats increased. Because if you could increase his stats to a 23, how many figures would have been able to kill Despotellis? Like none. Unless you got a crit hit. Okay. So, what we're going to look at next is defense. And so, what I want us to look at is greater than or equal to 20. Now, I did set it again, less than 300 points. Modern age. And, that's a damage value. I actually put it into the wrong slot. Damage 20. Greater than or less than. I was like, why is there no results? Okay, so, and why did I set it at 20? Because 20 really is this high end. And so, we're about to see something very interesting. How many 20s do we have? Now, I just had it on the same click. Not even on the first click. Okay? Alright, so we have White Queen from the prize support. Okay? And she gets that on her stop click. Okay, so that's pretty okay. But you're not really doing much with White Queen on her stop click. You're not hauling her around with a defend bubble. Okay. Then you have, Alpha Class Sentinel. But we will be getting rid of Alpha Class Sentinel, so that doesn't matter. So then you have the Skull Ship. And I think you're probably paying like a full 300 points at that mode. No, I take that back. I think this is where it just displays everything. Never mind. It's just displaying everything. So I put in sub 300. Anyway, it does show that the Skull Ship does get 20D. Okay, but it doesn't have any way of like modifying that. I'm just going to assume the Skull Ship, Brainiac integrated. No, this can't be right, because it's just showing all the dials, because it shows the slave circuit. So no. So let's keep going. Green Lantern from World's Finest, the Kingdom Come Chase, has a 20D, and Super Doom has a 20D. Alright, so when we look at all of that, what does this mean? This means that 19 is truly the standard for our high defenses. Okay, not only is the 19 the standard for our high defenses, we're probably really looking at 17 and 18 being standard. Heck, I would definitely say I wouldn't be surprised if we see more 16s popping up. But I really do believe that 17 and 18 is going to be the average defense. So when we start looking at the attacks of being an 11 and a 12, if you're talking 11 hitting a 17, you just need a 6, which puts you in the attacker's favor. 11 on an 18, you need a 7, which goes slightly, just slightly, into the defender's favor, but not by much. So once we see that, if we have an 11 attack, it's easy to just have in one perplex or two perplexes to up that 11 to a 13, so that you just need a 5 to hit that 18 and a 6 to hit that 19. And then all of a sudden we realize, wow, 11 attack is really, really viable, because there's only going to be a handful of figures that sit on that defensive cat bubble. And one of them is an Ant-Man, which, yeah, you can use for a defend, but you're paying 100 points. Okay? And the other is Green Lantern, and guess what? Like, if you're using Green Lantern for any sort of defend bubble, it's going to be using the JSA team ability. And if you're going to be using Ant-Man in Modern Age, it's going to be using a very crappy Iron Man. So, and it's from Avengers Assemble, the super rare, if you're wondering, because I did do my research. So there you go. Like, you see, like, there's so few categories, and then also, like, Super Doom, really, like, who's going to play Super Doom? And I'm not saying, like, hey, it's never going to happen, but when you start really looking at Super Doom, he has the high attack, he has the high damage, he has the high movement, he has the high defense, he has a lot of highs, but he doesn't have any movement attack. So, you know, that's a problem. I mean, up front. And he sort of goes downhill as time progresses. But that's just how I feel. Anyway, let's look at our next stat. Now, let's look at movement, because this is our next huge thing. Movement is really, really important. So what we're going to look for, our average movement is 10 in the game. What we're looking for is characters with movement greater than or equal to 11, because you start going, once you go 11 or higher, that's when you start seeing really huge gains. And we're going to put on first click only. So who shows up at the top? First off, we have Gladiator. He has a 12 movement, 11 attack, 5 damage, 300 points though. So he's our entire team. Dormammu again showing up, 11 movement at 300 points. So are people really going to play these characters? Not really, unfortunately. Even though between the two, Dormammu has the higher ability of staying alive and actually winning a fight than Gladiator. Next up you look at is, oh look, a 300 point Hulk from Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Hulk is it. And again, I'm looking on first click only. So what does that tell us? There's not really there's not a high amount of mobility. So then we keep going, and it's like, oh, Age of Ultron, Phalanx Ultron. Oh, 300 points again. King Thor, Hulkbuster, all these characters, they're huge points. Huge points. Like Hulkbuster from Age of Ultron is 300 points. That's a lot. So just in general, there's not that many characters that are going to be zipping around with high movement. And so this is why, like World's Finest, 300 points, hypersonic speed, 11 movement. Then you go and you look at Super Doom. Okay, he comes in with 12 movement. Superman Robot, coming in at 300 points with 11 movement. Shazam should have shown up on my search, and so should have Flash. Excuse me. So Shazam, he has a 15 movement. Okay, and when we see that, it's like, oh, okay, cool. He has a 15 movement, and then let me change some things. Less than 300 modern age, speed value greater than 11, and first click on the search. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, so I think there was some sort of glitch in my search. There we go. All right, so I got a lot more this time. It was like, hold up, wait. Some things weren't exactly right. All right, so less than 300 points, modern age. There we go. All right, so, in Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., just sort of going back, like we have Blackout, we have Wizard, but, we're really not going to be using those characters. Definitely not Wizard. Age of Ultron storyline OP kit, we have Quasar with 12 movement and 11 attack and 5 damage, and that's great. But what do we notice? That 9 range that puts him in the above average category, and power cosmic. But he's 9 clicks deep, very first 2 to 3 clicks heavy. Like, he gets any damage, he's sort of in trouble. Iron Man 2020, he's coming in with the 12, and that's nice. With running shot, but he has a very moderate length dial for 202 points. Let's just sort of keep scrolling down into, there we go. Superman should be retired, and Vampire Batman on top click has 12 movement, hypersonic speed, but you got to do a lot of blood sucking. Coriander has high movement, which will keep her in the meta for a bit, and combined with her range means she's going to have an extremely really good amount of swing. And there's nothing really to take away most of her advantages going forward. So Coriander's stats in stock is going to be on the rise. Then we also see again Martian Manhunter, 12 movement. Just showing up, and that's huge. The prize support Flash has a 14 movement, coming in at 85 points with precision strike. That's great, mainly because you also have some speed force shenanigans, and then also that speed bag ability, which I like a little bit. Of course, we have that target Superman, and let's see who else. Okay, so there we go. Now it's coming up right. All right, so we're looking at some other cool characters, and something I want you to know is we're not seeing a lot of hypersonic speed, high mobility. We're seeing some, but we're not seeing a ton. Okay, and yes, you do have your Supermans, but really, and you're not seeing a ton of them, and you see some speedsters, and that's cool. But they're not insane damage outputs. Okay, I think our biggest contender for high mobility with very solid damage output is Dark Flash, and he's one of the few with 11 attack, 4 damage, 13 movement. But his defense is very soft. You're super reliant on the shape change. Definitely, if we look at Black Lantern Zoom, who was super popular, again 120 points, very shallow dial, can easily be put on some later dial clicks if he got hit by the wrong attack, just straight up. So what does this mean? Yes, we have high mobility, but there's very few characters that have high mobility that allows them to do very far range attacks. Then we take it another step further, is there's very few characters with high mobility and also the ability to increase their stats greatly. So that also knocks off our like Kingdom Come figures. And there's only a few characters that have high mobility. They're able to increase their stats greatly, and then also have some level of defense that's comparable. We're looking at Trinity or Superman for the prime example of this. Okay. So what does this mean? A lot of this movement, you're really also not coupled with. If you well, I'll go into it a little bit later. We'll go and progress to it now. Into range, and yep, it's 40 something minutes. Look, we're going into range, so we're going to look at 9 range and higher. And again, our main goal is to make sure that we're able to see, like, hey, what is above average? What are most people going to be looking at or trying to do? So greater than okay, there we go. Search. All right. So what we notice here, real quick, is that there are some notable figures, but let's take some a little bit more notes. Okay. All right. So we got Shumagorath. All right. No movement attack. High mobility. Good range. No movement attack on first click. Zombie Galactus. Again, average mobility 10. High range 10. Multiple targets, great. Crappy attack at a 10. Or you could just say average attack at a 10. Average defense at an 18. And 4 damage. Okay, 200 points. Alright. Supreme Intelligence. Crappy movement. Crazy range. Okay attack, okay damage. Nick Fury, no movement attack. Quasar, movement attack. Okay. Ultron, Age of Ultron, a minor movement attack with a running shot, 9 range. Grandmaster, sidestep with a 9 range. Graviton, sidestep, 9 range. Korvac, you can sort of cheat with Korvac because he's going to be playing with Justin Zephyr, which, in all honesty, is going to. I know we're going to see him again. Rick Jones, again, 10 range, low movement, low okay attack, average attack, above average attack. Sorry, it's 11. Let's go on down to Batmite. crap attack, good range, okay average movement. Green Lantern, KC Green Lantern, good range, good attack, overall good stats. So we can see again, like, who's coming up. KC Green Lantern's come up again with a above average range, average movement. He didn't come up in the movement category. He came up in the defense category. When we go into damage, I'm going to be looking at 5 damage on start, so he won't come up in the damage category. But with Range Combat Expert, functionally, he will come up. He can qualify for that damage category. So you start to see these trends. Hades, okay, high points 235, no movement attack. Phasing, 10 range, 11 attack. Solaris, 10 range, phasing, 11 attack, at 300 points. Yeah, and that's it. So there's also Spectre, but we already know Spectre doesn't have movement attack. So what does this mean? High range is not a blessing in most cases anymore, and you're not seeing high range with hypersonic speed. Or even with high movement in high range. And you see some anomalies like that, but even then, if you do combine in some sort of movement attack, you're not busting that 10 range. So there's some things to be looked at. Is that if you're going to have a high range, WizKids is saying that's fine, but you're going to be a turret, not, a run and gun figure. And if you are a run and gun figure, there's going to be a lot more trade-offs that you're going to have to pay for. And really, like if we look at Grandmaster, not having any movement attack at all really puts a huge stifle on his offense, whereas Graviton does get some movement attack, but it's in the middle of his dial, which there's no guarantee that he's going to get the best of it. Okay. Then you look at Quasar, and Quasar is just sitting like really good. But he has an 11 attack, but he can't have his stats modified, unlike some of the Kingdom Come figures. But even out the Kingdom Come figures were like, hey, it's only KC Green Lantern, and he can't have his stats modified. So even his range is locked. And there's no other characters, that even come close to having the range that what Supreme Intelligence has. So these are some cool things to think about. Definitely when we start playing this range game. And I know some people want to say, like, you forgot Mitsuplik. And Mitsuplik is pulse waving most of the time, so his range really doesn't count unless you're going to try to do some other like shenanigan. Alright, so we covered movement, we covered range, we covered attack, covered defense. Let's cover damage real quick, and then we'll wrap up the show. Okay? And what we're going to be looking at is greater than or equal to 5 damage on first click. Now I know some of you saying, but Dark Logos, I can do this trick and that trick, and then I can get 5 damage or higher. I pick up an Ultra Heavy and I do more than 5 damage. Like, that's fully fine. I don't care about that. Don't care. I'm looking at raw base stats. So let's look at this. All right. So again, 5 damage, 5 printed damage. Oh, 300 points. Hulk and Red She-Hulk. Right there, 300 points. Shuma Gorath, 200 points. Gladiator, 300 points. Gladiator also at 150 with hypersonic speed, 11 movement, 12 attack, 18 defense, and 5 damage, which is probably the cheapest that you're going to get for that combo. And then he doesn't even have access to super strength. Yeah, he does not have access to super strength. But he does hypersonic speed and 12 attack and 5 damage for 150 points. So yeah, that is there. So there could be some potential here for people to come back and look at Gladiator at the 150 level. But let's keep going when we start looking at this damage output. Oh, look, Bearing Blood after he engorges on blood. Oh, look, there's the 300-point Hulk again. Oh, look, there's Quasar again. Age of Ultron, Ultron. Let's see. The number 200 Giant Man at 300. Yeah. No one's playing Forgotten One ever. Well, I'll take that back. Maybe if they figure some weird thing out. Or a wall terrain just becomes a huge deal. There's Ragnarok, so people will be looking at him, but without Ophidian, is he as scary? And I would say no, because he doesn't have any way of just guaranteeing damage. And if you do put, Brainiac on him, yeah, he's just going to get access to, I think it's Precision Strike. Is it Brainiac? No, it's Eclipse, though, because Brainiac gives you Psychic Blast. Off the top of the dome, people, so check in. Yep, Brainiac gives you Psychic Blast. There we go. Like a boss. Anyway, so you got King Thor, again, coming in at 300, dropping that 5 damage on you, and then you have, like, the World's End Hulk, or Maestro Hulk, or whoever the hell he is, coming in, dropping 5 damage. Avengers Age of Ultron, guess what? 200-point Thor is dropping the 5 damage. And then, of course, we can't forget that Avengers movie Hulk at 300 points. And also, I think it's like 250 for the experience. Yeah, 250. and you're getting those huge attack values, the moderate movement. You know, it's really nice, but it also has its, you know, drawbacks. You have going down to DC, Superman and Wonder Woman duo at 250. Anti Black Lantern, Anti Monitor at 300, which again no one's going to be playing. Even though he does have the 12 attack and the 10 damage, 10 range and the 5 damage, and the average defense at 18, I don't see anybody playing this character at all. Yeah, of course, Superman Dawn of Justice. I crush everything, destroying buildings, Superman. Alloy, I think is interesting at 275. I think people are going to start looking at Alloy at 275 and then also Alloy at 200. I think there's a lot there to play with, but again, he doesn't have charge. He doesn't have a high range. You're running in with sidestep, and he only has charge at the 275 level, and that's fine. But it just shows you that he's meant to be played with Doc Madness at 25 points. And then, you know, super alloy pinata on everybody when all's said and done. There's also World's Finest, KC Superman, Brutal. And Brutal is definitely interesting because he does have a steroid for his attack. Vartrox, Super Doom, Brimstone, Titano. Those figures are going to be looked at again for damage output. We might actually see Martian Manhunter, who knows, at 300. But again, we're paying high points, Mahazis, and Black Adam, which, in all honesty, I really haven't looked at Black Adam because his movement's so low, and he's inflated because of Justice League. In Justice League TA. It just sucks. And so, yes, he has the ability to say you will pay if Black Adam is the only character on your force that has not been KO'd, modify his attack value by +1. If Black Adam is the only character on your force that has not been KO'd and your force is a named theme team, instead modify all of Black Adam's combat values by +1. Which is really hard because the only named theme team that he can use is Secret Society of Supervillains and Injustice League. So, modifying your attack value up front by 1 means you have a 13. That's great and all, but it's not enough. It's not enough, and he needs the Rock of Eternity to be any sort of threatening, and that's sort of sad in and of itself. So, is anybody going to come back and play Black Adam? Maybe. There might be some little combo in the future. Somebody might figure something out. It might be round table. Who knows? Oh, wow. I'm going to play Black Canary or something. I don't know. And now he's boss. But definitely looking at, 12 attack, 5 damage. 10 movement, no range. You're bogged down by the freaking expensive Injustice League TA. It's just too much. It's just way too much. And you have Captain Thunder, which had made a Rock appearance once. I think he might potentially come back again. Who knows? Who knows? So, super strength and all that other jazz with 5 damage. So why is the 5 damage a huge issue? Number one, what have we noticed? Not that much 5 damage. I have a full vet Titano. He has 5 damage. Cool. But we don't see a lot of 5 damage. The average click, heroclix figure is 6 clicks deep. 6. This means that if you have the 5 base damage, you have some way of if you crit hit or you do some sort of knockback for additional damage, you can come in and one-shot just about any figure. Almost guaranteed 2-shot. Okay? So, if we're looking at the average HeroClix figure being 6 clicks deep, a lot of these cheaper figures that have multi-click dials are really about 4 to 5 clicks deep, which means before damage reduction, you could pretty much one-shot all those figures. So if you find a way of getting rid of damage reduction, or evasion, or whatever else, then yeah, you're going to land a solid hit for crazy amounts of damage. You also got to take into account some other things. Number one, the attack values on some of these characters. You're looking at 11s and higher, 11s and 12s, if you're doing 5 damage on your first click. So that's just straight clear. Which also means that there's some characters that are just way better in that 180 to 250, or even you could say 300 range. But here is the huge catch. The hugest catch. Okay? If you start looking at around 200 to 225, you see a majority of those figures performing just as well on top click, or just about, consistently as some of the more expensive figures. At the same time, like, let's take Superman, Wonder Woman, Superman. The consistency that you're getting out of a figure like that is way, way, way better than, you could say, like Target exclusive Superman, who is a lot more top dial. So let's just go ahead and compare those two Supermans real briefly. Okay, there we go. All right, so first off, I know you're going to say, like, the point values are so much more different. And I'm like, yeah, I'll give you that. All right, so let's just look at it. It's what? Over 50 points of difference? What, 55 points of difference? Yeah, 55 points of difference. So that's another figure. So let's just look at it straight up, like a 1-to-1 comparison. 8 range, great. TAs on Superman, nope. On let's just say Superman 1 is, or let's just say BVS Superman versus Superman, Wonder Woman, Superman. Okay, so BVS Superman, or Target, let's just say Target Superman, because everybody knows him that way. Target Superman has less movement by 1, equal range, same attack, same defense, same damage output on click 1. Once we go to click 2, we starting to see the fall off. Has 2 less movement than the Chase Superman. Okay, same attack, same defense, less damage output. Okay, go over one more to third click. Okay, oh, we don't have hypersonic speed. Okay, we have an average movement of 10 versus Chase Superman having a 12 movement with hypersonic speed and super strength. Okay, we both have super strength, but a 12 attack instead of a 10. 18 defense. Okay, now here's the thing. Target Superman has a potential of healing, whereas the other Superman, the Chase Superman, doesn't. And then you go and look again. It's like, oh, look, I have 5 damage on Chase Superman. So the damage output of Chase Superman at 280 vastly outpaces, the Target exclusive Superman. The attack, the defense is about the same. Okay, but just when we're looking at the damage output in the mobility and in the move and attack, the 280 point character that's a Chase just beats out that Target exclusive, and it should, because it's a Chase. All right, versus technically you could say a super rare or even a rare. Okay, which that Superman is the Target Superman is way too good for being a rare. A rare equivalent, really. So what does this mean when it all sort of stacks up? Is that, yeah, I could spend 280 points on Chase Superman, but I also could save points by using Target Superman, because if I land my first attack with each of them, there is literally only one minor difference, and that's 1 square of movement. That's it. And with that 1 square of movement, for that cost that I invested into Chase Superman, I could easily take that 55 points and get a TKer. Heck, I can get a TKer and a medic. So I could get Mercury and Doc Magnus for 50 points. Okay, that'll put me at 275, and I have 25 points for a round table or something now. Okay, now we look at that Superman. That Superman can't put in a TKer, okay, because he doesn't have the points, because the cheapest TKer is 25 points. You know, he could run a battery, but we can't run a battery after retirement. So where is this cheap TK coming from? It's not. So now, this 225 point Superman completely outpaces the Chase Superman, because all his biggest weaknesses are gone. Now you can say, well, Dark Logos, I just slow play with the Chase Superman, and then he just comes in and whacks the other, the Target exclusive Superman. No guarantee whatsoever. It is guaranteed 100% of the time that with TK in the movement of Target exclusive Superman will get the first hit every time. Every time. There is nothing that Chase Superman can do to stop that. It's just except pray that he misses. And if you look at it like, okay, a 12 on a 19 needing a 7, we've already established that's only slightly in the defender's favor. But then the Chase Superman has to respond in kind. Okay? So, let's just say, picking up an Ultra Heavy, this Chase Superman, the Target exclusive Superman hits Chase Superman. Okay, for 8, he'll take 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I'm on 12 movement, 11 attack, 18 defense, 4 damage. Okay, now that Superman, the Chase Superman, has to pray for impervious rolls. Because if they fail, he gets hit with another Ultra Heavy. Let's just say there is one, he gets hit by it. Okay, from Target exclusive Superman, so he's going to get hit for 8 again, so he's going to take 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Almost dead. Almost dead. And there's no way for that Superman to catch Target exclusive Superman. No way. And there's almost no way for that Superman, the Chase Superman, to catch the support of the Target exclusive Superman. So you might say, like, hey, Dark Logos, you went specifically in on the Superman, your overtime, wrap things up. Why are you like breaking down these high point pieces like this? For a huge reason, and that huge reason is this. I honestly believe that a lot of development in the next few months is going to come from people looking at high point figures, because WizKids is going to be shifting the damage down a bit so that characters under 100 points aren't doing crazy level damage. The golden ratio between 100 to 125, I think a little of that's going to shift the way the game's going to be played, so that if you're crafty, you can get some similar results in that 50 to 100 range. Okay, because WizKids is designing the game for more figures to be played at a time. Okay, so you're going to say, well, Dark Logos, if we're going to see the birth of more swarm teams, why are you talking about tent poles and high damage output and all this other stuff? I want you to see what's there so you're aware of it. So you're not just like, oh, wow, I do this thing, and now I put all these characters together, form Voltron, and I do 6 damage with an attack. And then you're going to be like, oh, okay, cool. Or I can just not pay that many points and play the Superman and do the exact same thing with a printed 5, and then pick up an Ultra Heavy and do 8. Okay, so there's things like that you have to see. Now, I didn't go through defense powers and like how many clicks of defense powers are there. Like, that doesn't matter as much because of Pulse Wave. If Pulse Wave didn't exist in the game, then clicks of impervious, clicks of invincible, all that stuff would matter a lot more. But Pulse Wave exists, so a lot of that just doesn't matter like it should. Okay, So now, as we sort of put everything in the ball, what have we sort of distilled from all this? Number one, like just off the bat, there are more viable attackers in the game now. 11 attack is super viable. Okay, if the standard, the highest level of defense is a 20, that means that 19s are worth way more, because you're able to modify them and get up to a 22. Okay, and you don't have to think about that defend as much. Okay, movement, high movement does not necessarily mean high with movement attack, high movement attack, or it doesn't always mean high damage output. Okay, and that's key. And if we do see it, we're paying a lot more points, and we're not paying in that golden ratio area most times for doing that high levels of damage output with high mobility, with high attack. We're really not seeing that combo a lot on the cheap. Okay, because that was a problem for a bit. We were seeing that on the cheap. Okay, high range. If you're looking at getting movement attack, you're going to be looking at a 7 to an 8 range. Anything higher than that, yeah, you may or may not get movement attack, but you're most likely going to be built like a stationary target. Stationary turret, which does change how you play. Now, you can eat 2 actions and roll with TK and all that other jazz and try to fix your problem, but you're spending 2 actions for what another character with a less range can do with 1. Okay? And last but not least, our damage output can be extremely high, but we're mainly looking at the ability just to come in one-shot guys. That's why I really think that Kingdom Come Superman is probably going to be used a little bit more than what people think of now after retirement. I think that figure might actually become like one of the new staples of the meta. So just a little stuff to think on. Also, just sort of keeping in mind, like, if the stats are the way they are, what is the role of entities and stuff? And really, in that regard, it's powers. It's not really stats. And if it's powers and not really stats, then guess what? Yeah, Night Lantern is actually meta. More meta than we would care to admit, because of the amount of flexibility that can be added into the meta. Just for the fact, like, oh, wow, I picked this figure, put him on that figure, now he's great. Oh, I need prop, play 25 points for this prop. Oh, I need defend, pay 25 points for defend plus this other figure. Okay, great, I'm good. Okay, so now we're in this whole new way of thinking. Okay, you're like, oh, I need defend, I put that on top of Ant-Man. Now I'm sitting at 275. I have 25 points for a resource. So now I have 20 defend. Okay, cool. So I really want you all just, do some of your own digging. Tell me what you all think. It's late on my end, and I'm starting to fall asleep. I got 6 hours sleep the last night because of dancing, and gosh, I'm a little exhausted. Nephew time kicked in, and no nap. He had a nap. I didn't get a nap. But in my defense, well, not even in my defense, so don't feel sorry for me. Been playing Warframe all day and talking to people about teams. So, anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space and told me, man, you got to hydrate more when you go out and dance, buddy. Dude, when I went to church in the morning, I had a headache the size of a mountain. No kidding. Like, it hurt bad. I know when I dance too much and not drink enough water is when the next day, like, my head hurts. People who get drunk, I empathize with you a little bit more because I have the equivalent of a hangover without drinking. Anyway, you can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. Tell me what you think of this sort of synopsis Was it helpful? Was it not helpful? What sort of information were you looking for? So that way, if I need to do a part 3, I can do a part 3 and help you all out. But I can't do it if I don't get any feedback. And I'll just be like, yep, I did a good job. I'm done. The blog is dead, pretty much. I'm not trying to res it anytime soon. I just haven't had time to write, so I'm not even going to promote it anymore, hardly. And if you want to buy a shirt, heck yeah, you want to buy a shirt for the summer so you can impress all the ladies. There's a Phoenix Nest shirt and a Starting Over podcast shirt. You can get from the link in the description below the show. All right, that's it. I'm slightly delirious now, so I'm gonna go and put this in post production. And so remember, we all have to start over sometime.